My name is Soiat Williams, and I'm the former secretary to the Department of Personnel Management. I've graduated from the University of Papua New Guinea in 1981, and I started work in 1981 also as an officer of the Department of Personnel Management. And I've been in the different, I've worked in the various divisions of the department, and in 2000 I rose to become secretary of the department after 20 years of service in the department.
Mr. Williams, as someone who has played a critical role within the public service, how would you describe the evolution of Papua New Guinea's public service since independence in 1975?
I think the public service has grown, let me say that, and the public service has evolved into what is it today, meaning that there's a lot of changes, the workforce has increased, there's use of advanced technology at the workplace, there's modern facilities, modern infrastructure, so our public service has evolved. And most importantly, I think the human capital of the workforce has actually have a much more enhanced knowledge in terms of the workings of government. So I think the country has moved on in a big way. We got smart young people at the workplace. We got a lot of graduates because in my days when we came out from university, we were in the process of localizing the public service. So that was a transition era for us, meaning that we were pushed into the positions to say, look, as a young graduate, go and work, and then we need to localize all the positions. So we were, sometimes I like to say that either we were the lucky graduates because there was a lot of job offers, but I think the burden of the nation was given to us to now work for the independent Papua New Guinea. So the challenge was there for us, and it was not easy to localize Australians who were holding positions in the public service. So from my assessment, our public service has grown. Our public service has changed in a big way. We have, young, smart workforce. The question now is that are we delivering?
What were some of the significant achievements of the public service during your tenure as Personnel Management Secretary?
All right. I think being in the department and working through the various divisions, I think we have achieved a lot. But as being a departmental head, you are the leader. But in terms of institutional rebuilding of the public service, I was there. So take for example, one of the issues that was controversial in the public service was the dual pay system, which we were inherited from Australia. And that's one thing that it was a factor in the public service, and the people that were more vocal about it were the university academics, because they knew that they got qualifications equivalent to an expatriate. So why do you have to pay them not the same pay as an expatriate? So, and that was an issue that we needed to eliminate in the public service, and I think that was one of the things that we were achieved during my time in the public service, that the dual pay system must be totally abolished, and give recognition to Papua New Guineans who got the same qualifications and pay them well. But it took quite a while because don't forget that it's not easy to remove. Something that was a permanent thing in the public service, and pay was an issue. So in other words, the terms and conditions of the public service was something that we need to review on a regular basis so that we create incentives for the workforce. Thank you.
In your view, what were the biggest challenges faced by the public service over the past 5 decades?
Okay. I think to oversimplify the issue of public service may be inappropriate. I think the public service is a complex animal, meaning that there's a lot of intricacies, there is a lot of complexities, you've got so many twists and turns, there's tentacles all over the place. So it's not easy to say the public service is a very simplified machinery. It's a very complex machinery, therefore you've got to be very careful how you deal with the public service. And most importantly, dealing with issues that are critical in nature, that is targeting areas for improvement of the public service. You know what I mean? So, take for example, to address, in order for you to address the public service, you've got to look at it holistically. You've got to look at it holistically, meaning that what is it? What are the critical areas of need in terms of the public service? So take for example, if I was having a conversation with you, probably the most elementary part of it from my perspective is customer service. Although you may say that that's mundane, but to me, customer service to me is critical in the public service because that is the relationship between who is delivering the service and the person who is receiving the service. That's why we got to inculcate a culture of customer service, prompt customer service in our public service so that people are not left standing there and waiting. And the public service must change that attitude of being receptive to our customers. And I think, although, as I said earlier on, although it's elementary, that is an essential part of our relationship with the public. Then, there's a lot also.
How has the relationship between the public service and political leadership evolved since independence? Has it improved or worsened?
Well, I mean, that's quite, I mean, it's an issue at the moment. It is an issue in the context of, is the public service highly politicized or is the public service impartial? From my judgment, I think the public services now is highly politicized. There's no doubt about it. Because if you look at the delivery chain of services, somewhere along the line, the actors are different. So, what we've seen over the years is that we've intensified the involvement of politicians in the delivery of services to the public. And to me, maybe that's a wrong thing to do. My view is that the public service must be kept out of politics. Totally. That's my honest view. And let the implementers deliver the services of government. Because the moment you politicize the agenda, then you are motivated to do something else as opposed to what you're supposed to do for the public. So the question of impartiality is now compromised. Now, there is in fact a demarcation between politics and the machinery of government. Basically, the politicians are responsible for public policy of government, public policy. But in terms of implementing it, that should be left to the bureaucracy. I think that's where that's where we sort of compromise that relationship.
What role did the Department of Personnel Management play in shaping public policies and standards during your time?
The Department of Personnel Management is the centerpiece of government. If you think about it, we are the department that is the nerve center of the entire bureaucratic machinery of government, and we have a critical role, a very important role in ensuring that the entire government machinery is functioning efficiently and effectively. Now, during my time, there's a lot of things that we've done. So take for example, the issue of pay. We've actually done a lot of work in terms of improving the pay and conditions for our public servants. And in particular, you look at the doctors. We played a key role in enhancing the doctors' terms and conditions. You look at the teachers. The teachers never had their own pay structure. We did all that. So the teachers today are actually well paid in our public service. So in other words, we contributed immensely in terms of trying to create a improved playing field for our public service in terms of remuneration practices.
How effective do you think public service reforms have been in promoting efficiency, transparency, and accountability?
Well, let's start there. Let's look at the number of reforms that were initiated during my time. You remember there was a raise gang in the public service, and they were basically being tasked by government, and I think it was due to, you know, uh, shortfall in our budget and the need for conserving money, and the raise gang was just basically tasked to cut the public service, and the intention was basically to save money, but reforming the public service or rationalizing departments where you create, if there's wastage, eliminate it. And you conserve the resources and focus on the relevant departments and let them get on with the job. But it has its a side effect. The question was that was those rationalization exercises being carried out effectively or efficiently? Because sometimes you may carry a department that is essential. So to me, it was a question of, no, that was a policy of government. You carry it out, and then that's it. But I think you need to be very careful when you do this exercise to ensure that non-essential departments are maintained and non-essential you can do that.
Looking back, what policies or initiatives are you most proud of implementing or contributing to?
I think I was very, when I was with the department, I was the chief pay policy advisor to government, basically in terms of looking at areas of remuneration management. And I think our significant contribution, as I mentioned earlier, was the areas of improved terms and conditions for Papua New Guineans in the workforce. And even if we look at the university academics, we actually do a review on the actually academic space structure and we actually improved it. So in other words, we actually gave recognition to Papua New Guinea in our workforce. And that is a continuing exercise, and I'm hoping that in the next 50 years or beyond that, we've got to look at creating incentives for our public service so that we maintain a cadre of highly skilled workforce in our public service. And that's what is also, I mean, to me, it's lacking at the moment, a multi-talented workforce, a multi-skilled workforce. Because we've got to economize on our resource where a few people can do a lot of work. That should be the name of the game of our public service in the country today.
How has the role of women and young professionals in the public service changed over the years? Do you feel progress has been made in terms of inclusivity and representation?
I think we've leapfrogged in that in terms of seeing women holding positions in the public service, and I'm proud of that. And there's more women now, holding departmental positions and senior positions in the public service. In my days, that was a rare commodity. Our women were still in the phases of education, and equality and all these issues about diversity, inclusion. So with the various policies in terms of inclusivity, we're now seeing an increase of women holding positions in the government, departmental and executive level, and I think credit must go to our women folks.
What lessons from the past do you believe the current public service can learn from?
I think, to me, the public service is now, the workforce has increased now. And the most challenges for the department is to ensure that that workforce is organized in a way that those at the workplace are much more effective at the workplace. So the challenge for leadership in the public service is that are we effectively monitoring the performance of our workforce? Are we effectively monitoring the performance of workforce? Because my observation at the moment, probably not. Probably not because a very simple thing. Take for example, you make an appointment to see a public servant, you come to his desk, you find that he is not there. Then what do? So in other words, that appointment is wasted. The guy is not committed, I don't know. But the point is that there's a message in that if you is absent from work and you are there, that means you are insignificant in terms of to what? You are insignificant in terms of what are the expectations on his part. So that's the reason why I started earlier this conversation about customer service. Basically, those things like appointments. They're very important today in our public service. Because that's where we as customers gain the confidence of our public service. And if we don't have the confidence of our public service and we lose trust in them, then where do you go?
So we come to your hopes and recommendations for the next 50 years. Mr. Williams, what is your vision for Papua New Guinea's public service over the next 50 years?
All right, that's probably a long shot, but I can only just leave these few points. Huh? I think we actually need to really look at our public service in a big way. And I think there's a number of reports that have been published, but more so, pay attention to the JUFA Parliamentary Committee on Public Service Reform. I think you need some documents or some evidence to say, probably take that report and use it as a basis to reform the public service. You know what I mean? Because it would be a futile exercise for me just to suggest something generalized. But I think some of these findings of this report are the basis for you to say, we target these areas. Now, I think to me also, decentralization of government, decentralization government that we have, system that we have, is a very important area. And my view is that we need to review the decentralization system of government and looking at moving the bulk of the public service to the provinces. And particularly functions that can be performed at the province should be moved. So take for example, to me the issue of NID should be left to the provinces. National ID program, card. Let the basic statistics be collected in the provinces. They just filter all the information to Waigani. You do the cleansing and then the baseline data. So issues like, take for example, issues like community affairs. You leave this to the provinces. Let them do it. Issues like even statistics, basic statistics, to me, that should be left to the provinces to collect it. Then you look at Waigani just an area of database, Now also, to me, the issue of the next 50 years, I think we need to advance the use of ICT in the workplace. Because that's where you create a high level of efficiency. And with the advancement of AI, our public service should be encouraged at all times to use these tools that trade now in our workforce so that we have become more highly efficient in the delivery of our services.
How can the public service better address emerging challenges such as digital transformation, climate change, and economic diversification?
Well, those are issues that must be on the agenda. Those are issues that must be addressed at the workplace. And you need to inculcate within your workforce these shifting agendas because they cannot be stagnant. And these are moving targets. Therefore, the public service must be sensitive to this new demand and be appropriately skilled, trained, or appropriate skill sets in order to deliver on those. Thank you.
What role do you think the public service should play in promoting good governance and fighting corruption?
Well, for a start, to me, good governance starts off with leadership. If you want transparency, if you want good leadership, it starts at the top. Therefore, what the public service to perform to expectations, leadership is central to these expectations. Therefore, we need to foster a cream of public servants who perform at the highest end of the business in terms of leadership, and ensuring that those organizations exercise those responsibilities with due care all the time. And I think most critically, ensuring that those services are delivered based on their mandates, their areas of work. So take for example, if you are dealing with issue of rural development, As a departmental head, you ensure that there's accountability in terms of all the projects around the province. So take for example, I mean, I was reading this article by the Secretary for Rural Development saying that over the last 10 years, they've never audited all the projects under the DSIP or PSIP. Now, you tell me, if you have not done an audit on that, what guarantee is there that the money was used wisely? Is that public accountability? Is that transparency? So these are issues that are now central to government in terms of monitoring, delivery and accountability.
How important is leadership training and capacity building for the future of the public service? And what improvements would you suggest?
Well, firstly, I think that's a critical element, and I think the issue of workforce development is an issue of critical need in our public service. And to me, for any nation to progress, or for a country to progress, the public service must have the capacity in terms of know-how, appropriate skills relevant to the professions to deliver the services. And if it means that over the next 50 years, if we are going to improve on our performance, we need to scale our work. Get them the appropriate training. And to me, at the moment, we need a lot of highly specialized public service because that's an area of need. So take for example, in our hospitals, we are lacking a lot of highly specialized doctors. And that is an area of great need in our country. Because once you've got specialists in various fields of medicine, they can give you the appropriate advice in terms of medication, treatment, etc.
What advice would you give to young Papua New Guineans aspiring to build careers within the public service?
The public service is a good organization, let me put it this way. And for young Papua New Guineans, make a contribution to your country. And when you work in the public service, dedicate your time. Now, this is not a lost cause. Let me say this in hindsight. Because of the fact that, you see, what you gain from the public service will take care of you after you leave the public service. The skills that you have acquired, what you've learned, what you have experienced, will take care of you after you leave the public service. Because don't forget, when you leave the public service, there's a competitive environment for survival. So you need all the skills and the experience in order to prepare you for the outside world, or the outside of the public service.
How can Papua New Guinea's public service maintain relevance and credibility in an increasingly globalized world?
I think the only way that we can become the only way that the public service can become relevant is to be competitive. Meaning what? Meaning that there's a higher level of demand for the services of the public service because of their expertise, because of their know-how. So in other words, the public service is now critical to say, we can guarantee the future of Papua New Guinea. As a nation, we move forward, we've got a workforce that can deliver the expectations of a modern Papua New Guinea, a thriving economy. We got expertise in the various sectors of the economy, from agriculture to forestry to, and that's the kind of workforce that we now need in an economy that is advancing to the next 50 years.
What do you believe are the most urgent issues that need to be addressed to make the public service more effective and people-focused?
Oh, well, I mean, of immediate need is to ensure that the public service are committed to the work. I think that's a challenge for the public service, commitment. Because if we don't have commitment, then put it simply, you won't be committed to delivering what you're supposed to do. So to me, we got to firstly empower our public service. Now empower them with what? Firstly, they need resources. And my observation has been that if you look at the way we've been resourcing the departments, it has been very intermittent or incremental in the meaning that they may have a warrant of 200,000, but you give them 100,000 warrant for 1 month. Now you tell me, you have an high expectations in terms of the delivery, but with the limited resources at their disposal, basically they're limited to do what they want to do because of the fact that they are hamstrung. So in other words, those expectations is no longer there. So I think we need also to ensure that the public service is well resourced so that they perform their duty and deliver what they are supposed to do. So it goes hand in hand. You can't go in isolation that you demand a lot from the public service and that they are handicapped in terms of resources.
How do you see the role of the Department of Personal Management evolving in the future?
I think the department, we do recognize and I will acknowledge that the department plays a critical role in terms of the public service. Now the question is, hypothetically you can say, should we need a Department of Personal Management or not? Probably my view is that you probably need the you need the Department of Personal Management for setting standards, standards of performance, setting the parameters in terms of ramp packages, setting the framework in terms of performance auditing, all these things. But I think you got to allow the departmentalists to assume most of these functions. You got to start talking about an highly decentralized public service so that you leave the provinces to do what they need to do as long as you set the parameters. Because you cannot keep on coming to Waigani to get permission or get approval of restructures. You set parameters in terms, if a province of this size, this is your parameters in terms of, job grades, departmental. So those parameters must be set, but allow them to do it. Because my observation at the moment, the Department of Personal Management is becoming a stumbling block. Because it takes 1 month, 2 months, 3 months just for a simple decision from the department. So in other words, the DPM has got to wake up. The department must wake up and say, look, we got to be more affirmative, be more responsive to the needs of the department, be responsive to the needs of provincial administration, be responsible for the needs of other agencies that require our endorsement.
Okay, now we come to the last bit, your personal reflections and advice. As you look back on your career, what moments stand out as defining experiences that shaped your leadership and approach to public service?
I think for me personally, during my time as an officer and then ending up as a departmental head, it has shaped my outlook about life. It has shaped my outlook about professionalism. And these things are no longer impossible. We can achieve a lot. But I think we need to have a sense of ownership on this matter and more higher level of commitment in terms of our work ethics and our quest for success. Because to me, success doesn't come easy. That is because of perseverance, being knowledgeable, being committed, and then delivering what you want to do. So the public service has shaped me in a lot of ways, and I think my success after the public service is based on those experiences, and they molded me to become who I am today as an individual.
Finally, how would you like your contributions to be remembered And what legacy would you hope to leave for future generations of public servants in Papua New Guinea?
I think the public service has given me a lot, and reaching the pinnacle of being Secretary of the Department of Specialization to me is a milestone. And that's something that any career public servant would like. When you work in an organization, you'd like to be one day a departmental head. And to me, I think I've achieved that. And it is satisfying as a career public servant. And as a matter of fact, I was the first officer of the department to become appointed as Secretary of the Department of Personnel Management. History tells you that most of the departmental heads of the Department of Personnel were outsiders. So for the department itself to become the first officer to be appointed as a departmental head, that is itself a milestone. And I think you need to encourage that more in other departments that we bring up the workforce, work through them, put them through the process of training or whatever, and then ensuring that they reach the pinnacle of their career.
Anything else you would like to say?
No, I think as you're going to your twilight days, I think there's a lot of gratefulness for me personally in the public service, and more so I think the public service actually has equipped me professionally. And during my time, they sent me overseas to do my postgraduate studies in the United Kingdom. I've traveled extensively through public service, and those experiences actually shaped me, but more so consolidated my understanding of how bureaucracy works, how government works, and how can we improve our public service in the future.